It was a bright morning, and the lake sparkled under the early sun, perfectly reflecting the rolling hills and barns of my ranch. Ragnar padded beside me, alert and scanning the perimeter. Everything was peaceful, too peaceful as I knew from experience. Karen was plotting something, and sure enough, she appeared, hauling an enormous stage onto my dock, complete with banners, speakers, and chairs. She looked triumphant, convinced that she had the authority to host a community event on what she thought was now her lakefront. I leaned against the porch railing, sipping coffee, eyes narrowing. This was her audacity at its peak. "Karen," I called out calmly, "what exactly do you think you're doing?" "This is legal," she shouted, waving a clipboard. "I'm hosting a public event on community property. You can't stop me." I smirked. "That dock collapses on command." Her eyes widened, but she laughed it off. "What? Impossible!" she scoffed, dismissing my words. Clearly, she had no idea what she was stepping into. I tapped my tablet lightly. A subtle mechanism inside the dock activated. Slowly, at first imperceptibly, the dock began to tilt ever so slightly. Chairs shifted. The speakers slid a little. She called to her crew to stabilize things, but the tilt mechanism was silent and unseen. Ragnar growled low. He had positioned himself near the dock, warning Karen with his teeth-baring presence. She ignored him and continued barking orders to the handful of HOA members she had recruited. Then the first subtle disaster struck. A chair tipped. One of her banners fluttered and snagged on a railing. The speakers began sliding toward the water. Karen's panic was immediate, her triumphant grin fading. She scrambled to save her precious stage, slipping on the wet wood, nearly toppling into the lake. I pressed another button. The dock's tilt increased slightly. Water splashed against the legs as the front edge dipped, just enough to destabilize her setup without endangering anyone physically. But the psychological effect was devastating. Chairs toppled, decorations flew into the water, and the speakers crashed into each other with a loud clang. Karen shrieked, flailing desperately. Ragnar barked sharply, circling her now as she tried to regain control. Drones hovered above, capturing every humiliating moment in high definition. Neighbors across the lake watched live streams of her floundering. Karen's credibility evaporated in real time. Finally, I walked to the edge of the lake, calm as ever. "Karen, you do not own this dock. You do not own this property. Every action you have taken here is trespassing, property interference, and now public humiliation." Her face twisted, realizing the severity of her miscalculation. The HOA members she had dragged along began retreating, slipping in mud and water as the dock continued to tilt. Karen's shouts for assistance were drowned out by splashing and her own flailing. By the time law enforcement arrived, called by concerned neighbors, Karen was soaked, muddied, humiliated, and completely defeated. She attempted to explain herself, but the evidence was overwhelming. Drone footage, tilt mechanism logs, and eyewitness reports confirmed her trespassing and reckless actions. Citations were issued on the spot. The dock slowly returned to its stable position as I reset the automated mechanism. Chairs were upright, speakers intact, and the lake once again peaceful. Ragnar trotted back to my side, licking his lips in satisfaction. This event became another legendary story among the neighbors. Karen had believed she could assert authority over property she did not own. She had believed she could stage an event on my dock without consequence. She was wrong. The lesson was clear. Never attempt to manipulate or use property you do not own, especially when it is defended with automation, K9 units, and drones. Every audacious move will be foiled, every attempt documented, and every humiliation permanent. As the sun set across the lake, Karen trudged away, soaked, muddy, and defeated. Another chapter in the ongoing saga of her relentless failures against my perfectly defended ranch.